The entire base had ground to a halt. 3 of the most experienced Apache helicopter mechanics stood around the disassembled turbine engine, their faces etched with frustration and exhaustion. They'd been working for 16 hours straight, consulting manuals, calling technical support, running diagnostics that all came back inconclusive. The AH-64 Apache, one of the most sophisticated attack helicopters in the world, sat disabled in the hangar while a critical training mission was delayed indefinitely. What nobody knew was that the solution to their impossible problem was living 40 miles away in a small house with a garden. And he hadn't touched an Apache engine in 23 years. Keep watching, because what happens when they finally call him will restore your faith in the power of true expertise. Commander. Sarah Phillips stood in the hangar at 0600 hours, her jaw tight as she surveyed the situation. This wasn't just any helicopter. This was the lead bird for a joint training operation with Allied forces, and every hour of delay cost thousands of dollars and damaged credibility. The young mechanics looked defeated, their confidence shattered by a problem that seemed to defy logic. "Ma'am, we've tried everything," Chief Warrant Officer Davis said, his voice heavy with frustration. "The engine starts, runs for exactly 90 seconds, then fails. No error codes, no obvious mechanical issues. It's like it's haunted." Commander Phillips pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts, stopping at a name she hadn't called in years. "There's one more option," she said quietly, "but I'm not sure he'll come." 20 minutes later, she was standing on the porch of a modest ranch house, knocking on a wooden door adorned with a faded Marine Corps emblem. The man who answered was in his 70s, with silver hair, weathered hands, and eyes that still held the sharp focus of someone who'd spent a lifetime solving impossible problems. "Commander Phillips," Robert "Bobby" Jennings said with a slow smile, "I heard you had Apache problems. Didn't think you'd actually call me? Bobby, I need your help. My best people are stumped and we're running out of time." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Let me get my tools." When Bobby walked into that hangar, the young mechanics barely looked up, too exhausted to care about another observer. He was just an old man in jeans and a flannel shirt, carrying a metal toolbox that looked older than some of the equipment in the room. But Commander Phillips knew what they didn't. Bobby Jennings was a legend, the man who kept Apaches flying through 2 wars and countless impossible situations. And here's where everything changes. Watch closely, but Bobby didn't ask for reports or diagnostic readouts. He walked straight to the engine, placed his weathered hand on the turbine housing, and closed his eyes. The mechanics exchanged skeptical glances. Then Bobby did something that made them all stop and stare. He tapped the housing with his knuckles in 3 different spots, listening intently to each sound like a doctor examining a patient's heartbeat. "Start it up," he said simply. They fired up the engine. It roared to life, running smoothly for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 80 seconds, then began to sputter. Bobby held up his hand. "Shut it down." He reached into the engine compartment with the confidence of someone who could navigate it, blindfolded, and touched a specific fuel line connection. "There's your problem. Microfracture in the coupling right here. It expands when it heats up, breaks the seal, and starves the engine. Your diagnostics can't catch it because it only fails under operational temperature?" The mechanics crowded around, shining lights where Bobby pointed. Chief Davis pulled out a magnifying glass and inspected the coupling. His face went pale. "He's right. There's a hairline crack." "How did you—" Bobby was already unscrewing the coupling with practiced ease. "I've seen this exact failure twice before. Once in Kandahar in 2003, and once in a training exercise in Germany in 1998. Apache engines have personalities. You learn to listen to what they're telling you." He pulled a replacement part from his toolbox, one he'd apparently brought from home. "You young folks rely too much on computers. Sometimes you need to use your hands and your ears." Within 40 minutes, Bobby had replaced the coupling, tested the engine, and watched it run flawlessly for 15 minutes straight. The mechanics stood in awed silence as the old man wiped his hands on a shop rag and closed his toolbox. Commander Phillips approached him with tears in her eyes. "Bobby, how much do I owe you?" He waved her off. Buy me breakfast at the mess hall. I miss those powdered eggs. He looked at the young mechanics gathered around him. And maybe let me tell these kids a few stories about what these birds can really do when you treat them right. As Bobby walked out of that hangar 3 hours later, full of terrible mess hall coffee and surrounded by young mechanics who'd hung on his every word, Commander Phillips knew she'd witnessed something rare. She'd watched institutional knowledge and decades of hands-on experience solve a problem that computers and manuals couldn't touch. The Apache flew its mission that afternoon, performing flawlessly. Bobby Jennings went home to his garden, his phone already ringing with calls from other bases facing their own impossible problems. Some heroes wear uniforms. Others wear flannel shirts and carry old toolboxes, proving that expertise aged in experience is worth more than any algorithm. If this story reminded you that wisdom and experience are treasures we should never take for granted, please subscribe to this channel. Share this with someone who needs to remember that the older generation has knowledge that books can't teach and computers can't replicate. Because people like Bobby are disappearing every day, and their stories, their skills, and their irreplaceable expertise deserve to be honored and remembered before it's too late.